Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is a program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to hear your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. We are going to have a great show for you today. It's all about the economy, and I kind of love where we're going to be going with it, and I hope you'll join in. I hope you will call in. I hope you will be a part of it. Welcome aboard. Of course, we missed the first few people in the chat, but we have with us Alexandria Drone, Sharon Anderson, Mary Gardner, Judu. Welcome aboard. The one and only Michael Rudnin is in from Brooklyn, New York, and my brother from another mother, Patrick Magner, is in the house. I am still salivating over that great apple fritter and that taco. Thank you, hermano, for Saturday. Love you, my brother. Michael Rudnin says, listening from far away, feeling better. I'm glad you're feeling better. I hope you kind of heard some of the stuff that I was talking about you, Michael, when I don't know if you were in or out, but about reducing stress, and also, you know you're one of our old timers here. We want you around a long time, my brother. Also in the house, Teresa Egan, welcome aboard. Look, folks, I was entirely out yesterday. Oh, so you were entirely out. Sorry about that, hermano. Sorry about that. I hope, but I'm glad that you are in fact feeling better. Hey, what about that White House? The people, I don't think they expected the amount of stuff they're getting for knocking a lot of that stuff down, eh? I don't know that it really matters until folks start getting the spine and really doing the right kind of criticizing. It won't matter. Harry Denson is in the house. He says, good to see Michael feeling better. Politics Done Right needs his intelligence and input. Of course. We also have E2247, who makes sure to keep us honest on the Gaza situation. Now we always knew that it wasn't going to last, folks. We always knew that stuff was not going to last. Now, I am about to kind of put some of our stuff in the queue. As I'm preparing the show, sometimes it's like I forget to get the dang thing in the queue, which I am going to try to get into the queue as I speak to you. HZ Eric. Who is HZ Eric? Did you change your call name, Eric? What does HZ stand for? Come on, type it in. Let us know what HZ stand for. I hope it's something good now. Hold on as I bring these other files in, and I'm about to get them in. Voila, lo tengo allá adentro y están allá adentro ahora. Let me go ahead. I have a short one to start with. Okay. Let's see what else we got. E227 says, 47, the felon is irrecoverably, insanely psychopathic. Oh, United States, we hardly knew. Yep, no, we knew. He has the morals of a guinea pig. No, why are you going to speak that way of guinea pigs, E2247? I thought I knew you better than that. E2247. And the scruples of a gangster, that, yeah. In NA POTUS, we get what we want, sadly. Yep. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Harry Denton says, good afternoon to all the Politics Done Right listeners in the state of Texas and around the world. Good afternoon to Activista and el Profesor Egberto Willies. No soy profesor, pero lo tomo. Let all engage and digest and take away an understanding of politics. Yes, we will. All right, folks, before I play my first video, anybody has anything that they want to say to me that they may want me to cover as well so that I can tie it into the program? Just give me a call. 281. I need to put that stuff like in some sort of an order that comes out there. It's 281 823 7747. I just want Anybody call in if they want to say anything before we get started, just give us a call. I'm putting it in the chat again. That is 281-823-7747. Una vez más lo voy a poner. 281-823-7747. Welcome aboard Nancy L. Frey, Elga Wright, and Jane B. from North Carolina. Chris Ruddick, thank you for being here. Love all you guys. Karen Andrews. And I think I got Dinah Moore already. All right. Okay. You know, the one thing that Donald Trump and his minions fear the most is the truth. It's data. It's stuff that's going to tell you where we are as a country. How is the economy doing? Well, as you know, the BLM data is not there. They weren't releasing the labor and statistics data, and they're blaming the shutdown on it. Of course, all that data was already ready before the shutdown. There's so much that is ready to be released that they're not releasing. The inflation data, they don't want to release it because the country is in dire straits. We know that tariffs is a failure, but by definition, it had to be a failure. The numbers just don't add up. I mean, it's money outside and out of BLS. Thank you, Eric. It's a BLS data. Thank you. My mistake. But anyway, so Peter Navarro got confronted. Hey, guy, do you know what those tariffs are doing? I want you to see what is this man's reaction. He went into a full-fledged panic. Check this out.
Peter Navarro, President Trump's counselor for trade and manufacturing, spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations earlier today, and he was asked to address some cold, hard numbers concerning tariffs.
In 2018, the Trump administration did impose tariffs on steel and aluminum, 25% tariffs, and we have data. Right. 2 years later, there were 1,000 more steel workers and 75,000 fewer manufacturing workers in the sectors that were dependent on steel. That's not a Goldman Sachs study. That's a Ball State University study that worked on it. And I'd be interested in. Let me just, if I could finish.
I'm not sure what you're doing here, Mike, because you got how many 4,000 people watching this. And you got a lot of people in this room want to ask questions. You and I can disagree.
No, absolutely.
The cows come home. I'd like to hear from everybody else.
Not just a disagreement. Michael Froman, who, by the way, is the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, was giving some cold, hard data about what tariffs did the last time Donald Trump was in office. And Peter Navarro did not want to engage with that.
And we have more preliminary data out that actually shows the tariffs is really breaking the economy, and there are two things that are hurting our food supply, right? The immigration battle that we're having, where he's deporting people and having people scared to go to work, that's affecting a whole lot of farmers and not being able to farm their land. It is also affecting things like the meat packers not being able to get their employees in. It is also affecting so much more throughout the economies of LA, Chicago, and many other places where Donald Trump is purposefully using immigration to disrupt the economy, as he also uses the immigration issue, the people in immigration, as cogs to fuel money to his benefactors, those who own the prison industrial complex, those who owns the food that will populate them, etc. But the tariffs are a failure. The tariffs are also costing the farmers their land, because now many of them, specifically soybean farmers and others, will be going under, in which case likely the vice president and others will buy up their land on the cheap. So there you go. The tariffs doesn't work, and when confronted with the data, Peter Navarro goes ballistic with a person who is addressing him. And where are we left? We are left with the American people continue to be uninformed by the administration, but here we are, independent radio and other places, making you aware. We fail at our own behest. You've been told the data. We continuously tell you the data. You can live the data. You can see the data. And the data says it is a failure. It has always been a failure. Anyway, folks, so that is one of these issues that we want to talk about. Remember about tariffs, though. I want to give a little thing about tariffs. Because constantly Donald Trump says we're throwing X amount of tariffs on China, this amount of tariffs on Colombia, this amount of tariffs on Brazil, as if these countries are going to pay the tariffs. For those newcomers who haven't been here with us a whole lot of times, the tariffs are paid by Americans. The American companies pay the tariff as they go to retrieve the products from the dock or from the airplane, wherever the product is imported, wherever the dock is, wherever they receive the imported product. The American company pays that price for the tariff. Then that product goes to the stores, and the stores increase the price because they paid more for the product. People say, well, why hasn't it happened for so long? Well, as it turns out, knowing that tariffs were coming, American companies filled up their warehouses with pre-tariffed products, with the expectation that as those pre-tariff products hit the markets, that there would be enough time that Donald Trump would come to his senses so that the new products that come into the country would come in without these high tariffs, or that the high tariffs would be mitigated, or that the Supreme Court would deem, as it should, that Donald Trump does not have the right to assign tariffs. That's a job of the Congress. But since none of that seemed to be forthcoming, and since Donald Trump has been allowed to do as he pleases, well, the tariffs are starting to hit, and the prices, as you can see in every store that you go into, have gone up. Have you tried buying on Temu? Have you tried buying at Amazon? All of these things are showing increase in prices, right, of your products because of tariffs. So what responsibility do we have, and all of you that are listening to me right now, as you speak to your MAGA brother, your MAGA sister, your MAGA, all of these that are singing the praises of Donald Trump's tariffs, just don't argue with them or anything like that. Just ask them, what products have they paid less for since Donald Trump has been in office? And ask them the difference in the prices, and ask them where do they think it came from. Susan English is stating something that I think goes under the radar. And thank you, Susan, for saying that, because it's something that I need to be talking about more. She says, tariffs are killing small businesses, especially have paying the tariffs tax up front. Yes. Let me tell you, I used to import a lot of, when I had my software company, there's a particular hardware that I wrote the software for that I imported from Taiwan. And every time I import those boards, I paid a very small tariff on the boards coming in. But I paid it. I paid the tariff, and I summarily simply, that price was included in the price of the board. The Americans pay the price of the tariff. Now, let me tell you something. If you're a small company and you are importing glass products, you are already at a disadvantage because you cannot buy products in the volume that the large companies buy, right? So if you want to compete with a Walmart or whatever selling a glass object, you already can't. You have to add some kind of value that differentiates you from a Walmart or a Target or whatever. And within the increase, the price that you have, which is higher than Walmart, you can actually sell that product at a higher value, saying, well, this is the added benefit that we have. But then if you throw a tariff onto that, that small company cannot survive. And then when you go into ridiculous types of tariffs, like 100% tariff from China, when most of a lot of these people's materials come from China, it kills the small businesses. And all the major corporations have to do is wait. Just like the agri companies are sitting down and waiting, because they know those farmers are going under and they're going to take their farms. They know these small businesses and apparel companies are going under, so they know that they will have increased business because all the smaller ones will be gone. we have to start understanding how this stuff works. Anthony Lefranco says, we have pet supply stores, small businesses, they can't, many of the popular products that keep their business afloat, they can't, I imagine you want to say they can't afford. AVQ says, arsenal producers can survive a trade war until that trade war turns the economy into a depression, at which point nobody has money left over for discretionary spending. And that is what's happening, right? And you'll see that I'm going to do a piece on that in a minute. We'll be doing a piece on that in a minute, as well, as far as pricing and who has the ability to spend right now. But thank you for bringing that up, Suzanne English, because that's an important concept we have to understand. These tariffs, they're bad. But if it weren't that they are going to kick a lot of small businesses out and cause less competition in the long run, you would have seen major corporations ordering Donald Trump to kill the tariffs right away. But this is a double-edged sword. Or I shouldn't say a double-edged sword. This is something in design to kill small businesses and keep increasing the size of corporations, their profits, etc., etc., etc. So folks, this is not a joke. This is real. So keep your heads up. Let's go ahead and talk about this other one that I want to say. You know, everybody talks about the economy. And I can tell you this. If you look at the numbers, and somebody called me out on KPFT recently because I said Biden economy was good. And in the aggregate, Biden's economy was good. But all the mechanism that hurt people, the foundation was laid. The inequality was laid. This disparity in which everything was given out was laid out. And so I should have corrected and pointed that out, which I subsequently did. But more so now, the economy, even as in the aggregate, as it's not completely cratered yet, for the bottom 65% of Americans, it has already cratered. And they're all a paycheck away from bankruptcy, or a paycheck away from, not the bankruptcy necessarily, but a paycheck away from putting a big stress on their lives. So I want you to listen to what the American people feel right now. I want you to see who is actually spending and where that spending is occurring, why that spending is occurring. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Almost 2/3 of Americans say the U.S. is headed in the wrong direction. And a big reason for that cynicism is the economy, which at first glance is strange because corporate America says the economy is doing well. Axios reports on that sentiment from statements and earning calls with some of the nation's top brands last week. The CEO of PNC Bank says consumer spending has been remarkably resilient. Ultimately, this is driving a sound economy. And the chief financial officer of GM told investors, we expect next year to be even better than 2025. But if you out there are sitting at home and scratching your head over that, you're not alone at all. A new estimate from Moody's says it is only the top 10% of households driving that spending. In fact, that same top 10% now account for nearly half of all spending. The last time, by the way, that we saw a chasm like that was the 1980s. Henrietta Trace, I've been paying attention. I believe we call this the K-shaped economy.
That's it. That's the ticket. Some of us are doing really well, and some of us are experiencing the highest prices, continued inflation. Every single time we shop, it gets more and more expensive. And from coffee in the morning to buying sneakers for your kids later on in the day, it's everywhere.
How does there's a lot of angles to this. If you are the Fed and you're trying to decide on interest rates, how much more complicated does it get if the top 10% is spending a ton and the economy is still going okay, but the rest of the country is not spending, and perhaps if they lose their job, not getting a job? How do you deal with trying to keep a hold of inflation.
Right. And that's really the struggle for the Fed, is that they see inflation. They know that it's coming. There's more to come even in the first quarter of 2026. And even as soon as next week, if the president goes ahead with his 100% new tariffs on China and the new tariffs on Canada and new tariffs on Mexico, which are all scheduled to roll out in the next 10 days. If those happen, what's worse? The inflation facing all of these families, all of the 50% of America that's not in the wealthiest brackets, the 90% of America that's not in the top 10%, when they're also losing their jobs, because you're seeing a material focus from the Federal Reserve on jobs, from the manufacturing sector, most importantly, in car manufacturing plants, appliances. Those are the people that are hemorrhaging jobs. And they're losing the jobs in such a fashion that it's even more important to the Federal Reserve than the inflation that we're seeing. So it's kind of stark. If you think inflation is bad, the jobs picture is even worse. That's what the Fed is grappling with right now, if they can get their hands on the data. There
is a poll out there. We mentioned it at the top. This is on the economy. Most Americans think that it's headed in the wrong direction. 29% of Republicans, 91% of Democrats. So certainly split on partisan lines. How do you explain that? How do you explain the partisanship in experiencing the economy?
The partisanship is this trust in Trump methodology and ideology that the Republican Party has, whereas both independent voters and Democrats, basically anybody that's not in the hardcore MAGA camp, is saying, hey, look, every single time I go to the store, it's more expensive. And so if you used to be shopping at Target, now you're shopping at Walmart. If you used to be shopping at Walmart, now you're shopping at Dollar General. And it impacts every single income bracket. But the lowest demographic, the middle class, anybody under $250,000 a year, it impacts you the most. And you're feeling the brunt of this because tariffs are regressive and voters know that.
And voters know that. So as you can see, the brunt, while the economy looks good, that's because the top 10% have so much money that they are spending an inordinate amount of that money. 50% of the spending in this country is done by 10% of the people. That is what you call disparity. 50% of the spending by 10% of the people. GM doing well with cars because all the people buying these new cars, they have the wherewithal to do so. You see, this is not an accident. This is all by design. And this is how it is intended to work. And the idea is to keep people so mad at each other that they accept a fraudulent economy. They accept an economic system that has always been fraudulent, but because it was only a particular group at one time that was really feeling the mass of the pain, hey, it's okay. But as those people were exhausted, as we exhaust the ones that we could take, the rest had to come to pass. And that is many of our other brothers and sisters. Very important, folks. Very important for us to understand that. Anyway, by the way, folks, I am taking calls today. I got 2 more subjects to cover. But if anybody wants to call in and make a mention, the last one is on second to last one is on capitalism, and then we're ending with Elon Musk. But I want to give all of you the opportunity to call in, try to get more people to call in here as well, like they do in the morning show. In the morning show, we are swamped on the phone, folks. When I say we are swamped on the phone, I mean we get swamped on the phones. Guess, that's on air though, so that's to be expected. Michael Rudney says the partisanship is who they blame for the shutdown and resultant economy. Republicans want their tax cuts for the rich. Republicans want their mass deportations. Republicans want to do austerity on the poor, cutting social services and firing government. Democrats, on the other hand, are fighting to make sure your healthcare doesn't double or triple. Oh, and there's also the vote on the Epstein files as well. It is interesting because one on the right, the lack of intellect on the right, and I'm talking about not the people, but the people who are pushing these ideologies, is that they don't understand that, right now 10% of people are making so much money that they're the ones doing all the spending. But here's the kicker. Eventually that comes back and bites you. Because in as much as they're spending 50% of the money, the 10%, the other 50% is paid by the lower 65% or the lower 90%, etc. And as you cripple that amount of folks, that 10% can't buy that much more of the economy. They can't, which means the economy, by definition, will fail. And when the economy fails, some of them in that 10% will also fail. You kind of wonder the short-sightedness of these people not understanding that inequality and disparity is not sustainable. The current economic system is not sustainable, and I'm going to play a piece where we'll actually go into that, right? Margaret Ryan says Ontario, Canada is spending $75 million on tariff ads, quoting Ronald Reagan on how long TS. Tariffs harm the economy. Dollars coming in from tariffs are barely paying the interest of the deficit. It's funny, right? Because Donald Trump is saying, oh, I'm bringing in $30 billion or $39 billion every single month. Okay. So you're bringing in almost $500 billion in tariffs. That's money taken out of the economy. That is money that would have otherwise gone to purchase a car. That is money that would have otherwise gone to purchase more clothes for your kids. That is money that would have been doing all those things. And every time you purchase a car, a home, a washing machine, you're circulating money, because once you buy that washing machine, the washing machine maker has to go and buy another washing machine to replace that. That means more people working. That means more metal use. That means all these things, right? But then, great, Magner, I'll wait. I'll wait for before I start the other video. So when that occurs, people, that means that $39 billion that he takes out of the economy to give to the rich is equivalent to all those people that would have had that extra spending power. They have it no more, and in not having that spending power, they actually cause the economy to crater that much faster. Look, we are in what's called end stage capitalism. Capitalism eats itself. You can't have a piece growing at 7, 8, 10% while the other is not growing or growing at 1 or 2%. That is an unsustainable situation. It's a mathematical problem. It's a mathematical reality. And, you know, it irks me that our educational system, because it is so deficient compared to, let's say, all the other countries in the OECD, when I make statements like capitalism is unsustainable, that doesn't resonate immediately. So when I say that you can't have a certain percentage of the population, a small percentage growing at 10% and the rest growing at 2%, that's unsustainable. If you don't know basic math, it is hard for you to look at the pie chart, or it's hard for you to hear that statement and not understand what's going on. But if I show you a pie chart and I show you that every year, if a small group grows at 10%, and currently they're doing 50% of, they have all the wealth, what it starts to show in a pie chart is people can actually start to see how the amount of income and wealth they are going to get is going to progressively go to zero. And then we become a rentier's economy, a slave economy. But they won't call it a slave economy. You'd still be an employee, but it's an economy where you live to work. You don't work to live a good life. Your only purpose for living is then working, and that's where they want us. Brother Patrick, come on in.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me. Hey, by the way, first of all, now that I have you online, hey, thank you for the fritter and the taco, man.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for everything you did on Saturday. I'm sure some of those people are only there because of your efforts.
Yeah, did you see the video that I did? I don't know if you were here when I played it or not.
I saw. Yeah, I was on yesterday when you played it, and then you posted it on YouTube. I think a day or two before that, and I'd watched it.
Yeah,
too.
Right. Okay, I had you. You were in the first video, and I think on the other one as well. But anyway, let me hear you, brother.
I need a filter next time you do that.
Why?
So I look handsome.
Oh, I thought you look handsome in your that. I like the shirt that you had on, man. You know, and with the hat, I'm like, look at this dude. All right. Anyway, talk to me, brother. Talk to me.
Okay. In the past, can we agree that the United States would pay for overproduction or purchase food from farmers that was overproduced?
Yes, they were trying to control pricing and prevent pricing from falling, so they'll buy excess milk, cheese, peanuts, you name it.
Okay, and we're trying to win I'm being a little facetious here, but we're trying to win a trade war with China, is what we tell people, right?
That's what we tell them.
So why didn't we buy the $12.1 billion of soybeans that the Chinese didn't buy to give to the cattle ranchers to feed their cattle, to lower the price of beef to benefit the American people, the American farmer, and the economy, and stifle what China was trying to do?
Man, let me stop you right there. I want to bow to you, brother. I do a lot of economics. I do a lot of thinking. Let me first ask you, did you come up with that on your own?
Yes, sir.
I'm
not very intelligent.
Well, that's BS. But let me just tell you, the reason I asked you that, right, is, you know, a lot of times, you know, we have all these highfalutin thinking processes, etc., and something as simple as what you just said. I mean, something as simple as what you just said would have done is kept it internal. The food wouldn't go to waste, and at the same time, we'll collect the tariffs. Again, I mean, that is great. China stops buying the product. Let the farmer buy the product at a discounted rate, maybe subsidize some by the government. The cattle, because they're getting it at cheaper prices, the meat for the cattle goes down. Oh, wow. I didn't think about that one, but that is perfect.
But instead of giving farmers $12 billion, we gave a podcaster from Argentina $40 billion, because if we see him fail, we know that there's a big chance that what Trump is trying to do is fail. So Trump was more interested in saving face and hiding the fact that what he's doing is extremely risky and probably is going to fail by propping up somebody that has been hostile to us in the past.
But the thing about it, Patrick, is that even that it's actually 20 billion. They're trying to raise another 20 billion on the private market, as I understand it. But if they don't do that, it's probably going to come out of our coffers anyway. But even that can't save what Milei is doing in Argentina. Argentina is not a small country, you know. So that's not going to save him.
He took a risk by attaching two different currencies, and it's failing, and that's why he got the first 20 billion, and that's why I said that we're on the hook for it, because this isn't going to stop. It's going to continue to fail, and Trump's not going to let it fail, and so we're going to continue subsidizing it. And as you said, we need a reciprocating or recycled dollar, and so even if it is only 20 billion. We're losing more than that out of the economy because that's not ever going to come back.
Exactly. The thing about it is, if we had just taken that $20 billion and say, let's find the poorest people that are trying to get out of debt, and not debt, but get out and be able to buy some stuff. If we had just given them that money, the economic activity that giving them that money would produce would exceed the $20 billion given. Not the taxes collected necessarily, but the economic activity that would generate would have done that. And that is what Americans don't understand. Americans think like, when we give money to people, that somehow it's only helping those people that we give the money to. And that's false. Whenever you give money to, look, you know why ADM and all these food companies have never come out against food stamps and that sort of stuff? Because guess where the people spend the money for food stamps? At ADM. All these food companies, they are profiting from the food stamp, from SNAP. they make a profit from the government spending money on SNAP. Well, people have to understand economy. Why are these people poor and needing SNAP? Because they're mostly working people who don't get paid a living wage. So we are paying the extra wage that Walmart decided not to pay. And in effect, it is a transfer of wealth from the taxpayer to the coffers of the Walmart family and and all the other families. But again, Patrick, because of our educational system, one that is poor at explaining things to people, it's hard to get across. What else you got to tell me?
Oh, that's it. I feel like I've already gone kind of long, and probably a couple other people want to call in, and you got capitalism, which is my favorite topic to go over.
Yeah.
I just want to say facetiously, thank goodness the top 10 are doing good.
All right, look, I got a video to play, so thank you so kindly for calling in, Patrick. We'll talk later.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Anyway, folks, look, let me first give us a thing, right? I believe in free enterprise, and free enterprise with a strong social safety net. That's not capitalism, what I believe in. I do believe, as a part of free enterprise, capitalism can play a part. So in my free enterprise economic system, capitalism is but one method within the free enterprise system. Number two, we can have collectives like they have in Spain with Madrigal, I believe it's called, where it's a complete corporation owned by its employees. So we can have capitalism for those who want to be in the shareholder capital type market. We can have the collectives, like cooperatives is what it's called. Cooperatives where you have companies created by or run by the employees and capitalized by the employees. If the company does well, the employees do well. And then we have the social aspect, that is the things that people must have, where we talk about healthcare, government run, right? When I say government run, I mean paid for through government, a single payer type system. Where we have drug manufacture and drug production, also under the government's domain. We can probably at times, if a private company comes up with an invention, they can sell that to the government if they want to, etc. Why do we put certain domains within the government? Let me explain. If you get sick with some disease or you get harmed, a company doesn't want to necessarily take care of you, a private company that is, unless they're going to make a profit for it. There is no reason to have a corporation without it being a profit method. So when you see insurance companies gouging the American people, guess what? They are doing the right thing. When you see a private hospital gouge Americans, they are doing the right thing. When you see drug companies gouge Americans, they are doing the right thing, because that we kept them in the capitalist domain, and their charter says that to exist, that sole purpose as promoted by the god of capitalism, Milton Friedman and all the others, is to maximize your profits for the shareholders and to ensure your executives get large bonuses at whatever cost. That's capitalism. That can work in certain fields. It doesn't work in healthcare. It doesn't work in transportation. It doesn't work in electricity. It doesn't work in certain areas. And these areas should then be controlled by we, the people. Capitalism as an ideology, which is what we have in America. In other words, I want free enterprise with a strong social safety net. That means in that system you can have capitalism, you can have cooperatives, and you can have the social portion, a large social portion that takes care of healthcare, that takes care of certain types of transportation, takes care of your infrastructure, etc. It's sensible, it makes sense, and it protects humanity. Once you put the private sector in transportation, it means that you do things at a cost that isn't necessarily safety. Once you put it in healthcare, it means people die because they're not profitable. Once you put it in electricity and energy, it means what happened in Texas, where you can have freeze out because it costs too much money on your profits to put things right. That is the problem. Capitalism should never be an ideology. Capitalism should be just one tool in an economic system for those who want to practice it. They have the free enterprise in which to do it. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Are Americans souring on capitalism? The answer, according to a new Gallup poll, is yes. 54% of Americans view capitalism favorably, the lowest percentage they've recorded, Gallup has, to date. And as critiques of capitalism are gaining traction, the Trump administration is trying to silence those critiques. In a recent executive memoranda, President Trump blames anti-capitalism for increased political violence and vows to go after groups that espouse that ideology. That is a pretty shocking number, even though a majority of Americans still say they favor it. Yeah. 54% is not high.
And you understand, what we've been through over the last 15 years or so, right? We had an economic meltdown in 2008, which really shook people immensely. And we've had our economic up and down since then. At the same time, we've seen the introduction of a digital economy, the rise of social media, now an AI-oriented economy. People's lives are very unstable. And I think they feel a lot of concern. And frankly, I think they feel they've been lied to a lot. And so as a result, I think there's an awful lot of folks who look at capitalism and say, okay, that's our economic system. It's not working for me. And so there is a discomfort. And can I suggest to you one last thing?
Yeah, of course.
It's interesting that President Trump is critical of the term anti-capitalist, but you know who developed one of the most sophisticated critiques in many ways of capitalism was Donald Trump, when he talked about trade policy. Now, when I say sophisticated, I should maybe be cautious on that. People will disagree with me. But what I'm saying is he recognized that trade policy had left a huge portion of Americans behind, and that they would potentially vote on that. Well, I would argue that's a critique.
Also, taking a stake in Intel, something that Bernie Sanders would have wanted to do. Yes. That's not exactly the most capitalistic move. And so when you talk to young people, a majority of young people favor socialism. What is their idea of socialism?
Well, I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is, why are they favoring socialism? What are they upset about? I think what a lot of people are starting to recognize is, yes, capitalism is a great way to create wealth. And I am all for wealth. Wealth is a good thing. The trouble is that capitalism is not very good at distributing that wealth. That is the problem with capitalism. And we're seeing it play out in America in real time, where, you look at the past 50 years, where productivity, our output, has grown 100%. And then you look at wages, the amount that people are getting paid, wage growth has been stagnant. So I think young people look at the pie, they see that the pie has doubled, and they also see that their slice of the pie has barely grown. So I think what we're really seeing is a rejection of that system that has yielded rampant inequality that is only getting worse. And so they're looking for solutions that may put an end to that inequality. And that's why we're seeing the rise of this.
So one of the issues is the CEO to worker compensation ratio. And as of right now, it's 281 to 1. That's a wild schism between CEOs and workers. I wonder if you just focus on the amount of money the guy at the top or the girl at the top is making versus what everybody else is making and try to even that out. If maybe the views on capitalism won't be so bad.
Well, let me offer a notion that CEO is the head of a monopolized company or a consolidated company, right? You took a lot of smaller companies and built them into this great
where
big
the worker
thing.
no longer feels like they have a voice.
Exactly. I grew up in Union Grove, Wisconsin. The wealthiest guy in town lived across the street from us. He owned a lumber yard and some other things. His house looked pretty much the same as ours.
I was going to say, did you live across the street from a castle?
No, it was a 2-story house with an open garage, and yet he was a wealthy man. You knew that, but he knew every worker at his workplace. If somebody got sick, he was concerned about them. And what I'm telling you is that one of the challenges with capitalism today, as it's practiced in America, is it's so distant from the working class, right? It is so far away. And we do see these references to the Gilded Age, to these times when it just got so big that people said, this doesn't work. And now in this country, we've often had a response, which is we elect a Franklin Roosevelt. We have people who come in and temper that reality. We have not really had that.
The Democrats have tried to get themselves as somebody who represents a correction to that. They've tried to not all Democrats, but the party has tried to push through Bernie Sanders, tried on Elizabeth Warren. She was leading the race for a little while back in 2020. But the party never takes it fully over the line, Ed. I mean, Joe Biden was the nominee. Hillary Clinton was the nominee. The party at large does not seem comfortable, or has not yet seemed comfortable, with somebody pushing democratic socialism.
Yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily a surprise. I mean, I think these words are concerning to people. Democratic socialism. I mean, we hear Trump using the word communism. He's calling Zoran Mamdani a communist. This is the way to scare people and make people worried about a prospect of a society that we don't necessarily want. But again, it all goes back to the inequality problem. It all goes back to, I love that example of having, the richest guy in town living across the street and his house is comparable to yours. What Americans are dealing with today, it's not just the cost of living crisis. It's not just the fact that many Americans can barely afford their groceries. It's the fact that at the same time that is happening, you look over at Jeff Bezos, who has enough money to deconstruct a 100-year-old bridge in the Netherlands so that he can sail his 400-foot yacht through that bridge. And so I think what Americans are dealing with is, one, it's the issue of, I feel strapped for cash. But two, it's that feeling, this is a little bit strange. How is it that I cannot afford basic necessities, and yet you've got these ultra billionaires? You've got the top 1% controlling $25 trillion in equities, half of the market cap of the entire S&P 500, the entire US stock market. How could that be? And that is the question that people are trying to grapple with.
And the answer is simple. It drives me crazy that simple answers, or rather simple questions, aren't given the simple answers. And that is, capitalists are parasites. Elon Musk created nothing. Elon Musk created nothing. Elon Musk is wealthy on the backs of all those who created the things that he is wealthy about. And I can go billionaire after billionaire. Billionaires that made their billionaires in securities, again, they created nothing. A stockbroker creates nothing. But still, because they control the fortunes of many as they trade these things, they get a chance to make quite a bit. And if they're in the right field, they even get something called carried interest, which means even as they create nothing, they pay little taxes. Now, all of you that are listening to me right now, you go to work. Your hands, your intellect create quite a bit. A bunch. All of us are the creators, and others profit from our own creations. And it's sometimes upsetting to me as I watch all these people wonder why is there a gap in the amount of money people has, a disparity. The answer is not difficult at all. It's whether we have the wherewithal to solve the problem by doing what's necessary. It's not like the wealthy have the means to really counteract the masses who have been ripped off consistently. Think about it. Marconi versus Tesla. I'm talking about engineers now. Two guys that purportedly invented the waves, right? Radio waves. Marconi, because he was able to get the patent and do all the things within a capitalist system, he got wealthy for purportedly discovering or co-discovering radio waves. And Tesla, not much. An economic system that rewards mechanics of moving paper as opposed to those who actually do something is a fraudulent economic system. And from our inception, our economic system was fraudulent. The only reason it had never been or hadn't really been declared fraudulent in the aggregate is that enough people were doing sufficiently well that we kind of just moseyed on with it. When there was slavery, one of the biggest capitalist rises, these people, they're just slaves. When it was taking the land for maximizing the use of oil and gold and all the resources, just kill them Indians. It's not one of us, so it's all right. It's okay. We kill and we monopolize and capitalize. And still, most Americans didn't get rich. But you know what? At least they lived. At least they could survive. At least they got free land. All of that is capitalism, man. It is capitalism doing its job. It has always been capitalism doing its job. And it is with great pleasure that I'm starting to see that the young people in America have started to discover that it has always been a fraud. It has always been a parasite. Like I said, I don't want to kill capitalism at all. I want free enterprise with a strong social safety. I want real free enterprise so that everybody here, if they want to form a business, they can form a business. And they know that in formation, even as they form that business, they'll have good health care because it's provided for with our general taxes. They'll have, if they need to go a place A and B, they know they have reliable transportation at an economical rate. Whether they decide to have a car or transportation, they know that they can heat and warm and cool their homes because, again, all these things are the things that are essential to our survival is provided by we the people. And all the other things, pizza shops and all those things, laissez-faire, whatever, if you want that in the capital market, throw that into the capital market. That's called capitalism. Capitalism as a tool. And if you want to create a system where, hey, all of us going to go together and all of us work this business and we are all forming this business. Collectivism, we have a good cooperative. That's another form of an economy within the economy. And then, of course, if we want to have the others. Lynette says, Egberto, is there a particular group that really is working on this issue of universal health? Oh, yes. We have several groups working on that, Lynette. Specifically, the HLNP. I forgot what it stands for, but they are working on it. It's a group of doctors who want universal health care. We also have the Medicare for All group all around the country. I'm a member of a couple. So yeah, we have from the guy that I put on, Chuck Pinacchio, who has the states. One Pair States is also working on universal health care. So there are a lot of groups working on that, Lynette. Margaret Ryan says, that is a reason to elect young progressive thinkers that put humanity first. Exactly. Welcome, Robert Mora. So again, it is important for us it is important for us to see what reality really is. It is important for us. Listen, Michael says, our founding fathers understood the essential goods and services belong as a part of the government providing for the general welfare. They wrote it into the Constitution, Section 1, Section 8. Yeah, Article 1, Section 8. Look, we have got to take this economy away from the plutocracy. And we can do it. And you know what? This is the time to do it, folks. We missed our first window. Our first window was 2008. When this system showed its fraudulent nature, we should have gotten rid of it then in 2008. But instead, they rebirthed it. Not one CEO went to jail. They rebirthed this fraudulent system by pumping your dollars into the system to refloat it. It should have been gone then. You know what, though? Donald Trump has done enough to show that it needs to be gone now. Donald Trump is doing enough to say it needs to be gone now. Thank you, Egberto, because I have been doing phone banking for PA Dems because of you. And thank you, sis, and inspiration from these on your program. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you for that. I appreciate those kind words. Corporate welfare in 2008. Exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, I got to be getting out of here. But before that, I want to put down a thing that Rodney just found. I want you guys to look at this chart. Let me put it in the middle of the screen. I want you to look at that chart. That chart there should tell you something. That chart should tell you something. That type of wealth disparity is where you get things to start happening. And we need to take advantage of that now. Anyway, folks, I'd like to ask all of you to consider becoming paid subscribers of Politics Done Right. That is how we fund all the things that we do here. And we could not do it without you. As you know, KPFT is in fund drive right now. Anytime you call into KPFT for the funds, that goes only to KPFT. Politics Done Right, Willie's Media gets none of that. And again, I do that with pleasure because I want to raise funds for Politics Done Right. And we've been doing very well raising for Politics Done Right at KPFT. But I also need to raise for our own local show here. So I want to ask those of you who have the wherewithal, and I'm not asking much, I'm asking all of you who are hearing me who have the wherewithal to do so, to please become paid subscribers of the Egberto Off the Record newsletter. Egberto Off the Record newsletter. And that is, you can do that. If you're on Substack, you can do it easily. But here's a direct link as well, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I've just put it in both of the chats right now. If you would become a paid subscriber, you will get us on the road to the 1,200 or so that we need subscribers to finally get me some help reduce some of these 16-hour weeks. Right now we're still I've been at negative cash flow for a long time. I've used up all my stuff. So please go ahead and however you can to support us. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber if you have the wherewithal to do it. All those books that you see scrolling on the screen, you can read online in our Substack for being a paid subscriber of Politics Done Right. I want to thank all of you. I want to give a big thank you to those of you who listen to both shows every day. I love you, man. Y'all give. Let me tell you something else that you guys do. You make it that I want to go ahead and keep learning and keep pushing and keep bringing things out. Keep doing our job, right? The double dippers, the ones that come to both shows, thank you so kindly. It touches my heart. I appreciate that. When you're doing this kind of work, that gives you, as tired as you are, that actually makes you want to keep working and working harder. Please go ahead and support us. politicsdoneright.com/ it's my tea time with Egberto. Love you, Lynette. Please go ahead and support us however you can. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Become a paid member and we can do this thing. Anyway, gotta get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. Love you all. This is Politics and Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.